so we're gonna talk a little bit about why the reason most coaching businesses struggle and how to solve that. Now, here's the reality and the sad truth of the story, if you will. And the sad truth of the story is, about 80% or so, statistics don't lie, they've been pretty consistent, about 80% of all coaches and consultants that are out there cannot provide for themselves. They cannot make enough income to earn a living. So they struggle. And I would suggest that the other 20% are probably on and off, because I think that figure is very optimistic. I would be willing to bet that it's more like about 95 to 98% of all coaches and consultants cannot make a consistent income that's going to allow them to live the life that they want. So that's sad. And let's talk a little bit about, what that's all about. So the first question I would ask would be, are you insane? We all know this expression now probably by heart, and it's attributed to Albert Einstein. That's debatable, by the way. But the expression really resonates with a lot of people, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I ask, are you insane? How long have you continued to do the same things with your business over and over and over again and expect things to change, to expect to get different results? I think one of the challenges, and I'm going to go deep into this in a minute here on the next slide, is that we struggle when we get into business in terms of knowing what to do and where to go next. So we all of a sudden let our power go and become this external influence as opposed to being internally driven. So let me give you a reality check here. In his book, The E-Myth, if you haven't read it, I would really encourage you to pick it up. It's been around for a long time. You can even pick it up at used bookstores, and you'll probably even be able to get it online. Well, I know you can get it online, but you won't even be able to get excerpts from it and such. But Gerber in his book proposed that people go into the world with a job, and then they get what he calls an entrepreneurial seizure. So they get this idea that, hey, I can do this job on my own. I don't need to accept a paycheck and let the boss give me a bit of what he earns. I'm going to go into business for myself. And they have this entrepreneurial seizure and they jump out there. And what they end up doing is creating a job for themselves as opposed to a business. So the challenge that you need to think about, and this may be very basic or mundane, you might think of it that way, but I hope that you pause and reflect on this, is have you created a job for yourself, or are you actually designing a business? Because the two are very different things. See, when we think of a job, we think of security, we think of safety, we think of the idea of a paycheck that comes in consistently. But when we think about business, when it comes to designing a business, we got to think about risk, and we got to think about reward, and we got to think about higher payoff, and we got to think about things like ROI. So these are very important things to consider, and I want to kind of demonstrate this graphically. And this kind of fits into a philosophy of mine as well. Is if you think about it, people get into a job and then they feel like they're stagnating, and they're coasting along. And if we think of the sinus rhythm, they kind of feel like they're flatlining. And then all of a sudden they get this, as Gerber says, an entrepreneurial seizure. So their heart races, it jumps up, they get an idea and their heart starts to race and they come to life and they think, I am going to go into business for myself. Now, here's what often happens, though, and it happens in most cases, is they have this entrepreneurial seizure and go into business for themselves, but then they start looking in different places. And what do they look for? They say, I want security. I want predictability. I don't want to take any risks. And guess where that takes you right back to? Flatlining again. So now you're actually trying to turn your business into a job. And that's a real challenge. Because if you do that, you're really not going to get to where you want to be. You're really not going to achieve the outcome that you're looking for. So what I want to suggest to you is that when you're in business, your life is going to look very much like this normal sinus rhythm. Now, this may sound like a lot of theory or flighty stuff, but really, I want you to dig into this and really get this concept down, because this is what we all need to embrace. This is what I work on and practice embracing all the time. And the concept here is, we're going to have highs, but a lot of people think that it needs to be high all the time. Like people who say, I want to be happy all the time. The challenge is, if you're happy all the time or you're high all the time, how do you know? You don't. So there's an expression that I don't know who said this. Maybe I made it up. I don't know, but it resonates with me. Is the depth of my sorrow leads me to the height of ecstasy. And what I love about that expression is that the farther apart, the more we experience negatives, if you will, or sorrow or difficult times, the more we can celebrate higher times. It's the opposite of the flat line, isn't it? And this is what business is all about. So a lot of people maybe live under this fantasy. And by the way, there's a million offers on Facebook and everywhere else online right now that'll tell you that you never have to live your life this way, that you can always be high, that your business will always grow. And it's a myth. It's a joke, really. And that's why many people buy into these and then get stuck and get frustrated and struggle. Because what you need to realize is in business, you're going to have those lows. And those lows may be financial, but they also might be places where you're stuck, where you don't know where to move next, where you don't know how to invent a new service or product. They could be losing a client. They could be bringing on a new client and being fearful of whether you're able to fulfill or not. And the highs obviously can represent not just financial highs, but also the highs of being in control of your life, in control of your business, in control of your destiny. Having that amazing feeling when you've just created something and it's out there and it's producing and it's fulfilling and it's serving someone else. These are the highs that we experience. So what I want to suggest to you is that the idea of looking for security, the idea many people will come to Jamie and I and saying, I just want consistent cash flow. I want a consistent flow of customers coming to me every day, day in, day out, so that I can deal with them. That's not reality. And that's not going to be something that your business is going to experience if it's a successful business. Because I would suggest to you that there's always going to be more. There's always going to be the opportunity to go beyond. So this idea of a sinus rhythm, embrace those times like we're experiencing right now, where there are external variables that maybe make us feel like we're in a trough, and make a choice not to freeze there, not to allow yourself to be frozen in the trough, not to run away from it, not to go back and flatline, but in fact, look for ways to be proactive so that you can experience that upward rhythm again. Give me some feedback again if this resonates with you. Give me a 1 if this resonates with you, or if you want to leave a comment or a question about this concept. Jamie, anything to add to this?
Yeah. So I shared this with my clients, and I just always like to share this. I just think, we can all relate. I've been there myself, and I always say I'm always thankful for the times that it was rough. And there are times it continues to be rough. And what that does is it just forces me to be more creative and more innovative. And so I encourage you, piggybacking and echoing on what Mark is saying, take this time to be creative, find new creative outlets, and innovate in how you are doing your business. Take the time that you need to kind of recollect yourself. But let's see, Anita's saying, yes, it's easy to freeze up, especially when alone. So that's why I'm here. Yeah. And
Definitely.
says, definitely. I don't usually embrace the lows, but I recognize that builds resilience.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe embrace isn't the right word. I don't know if that's the word I use, but I think you certainly could use that word. But I think acceptance is to just pause for a minute and say, this is where I am. So it's when we resist, it's when we try and use that fight to deny where we are in a place. So I don't want to get too philosophical and go off the deep end here, but just to accept, hey, you know what? We've got this thing called COVID-19 right now. This is having an impact. It's an external variable that's having an impact on my business. As Jamie just said, next step, what can I do about it? What can I do next? What's the serenity prayer is, give me the strength to help me with the serenity prayer. Jamie, do you remember?
Yes,
God, give me the strength to control the things I can't.
To accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to know the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea being here, sorry, a little lack of preference, but the idea of being able to say, okay, what can I control? And this is where, Anita, you're so right, is when we're in self-isolation and we're isolating, we feel isolated. and we feel out of control, and we feel like this external variable is having an impact on our lives. So we need to pause, take a breath, and say, it is what it is. I accept this. This is this is something that I cannot change, COVID-19. I can change my behavior. What can I change? Well, first of all, from a health standpoint, I can wash my hands. I can stay 6 feet or 2 meters apart from everybody else. I can avoid public spaces where people are gathering. I can do all of these things. So those are things I can do from a health standpoint. Now, what about our business? Well, instead of getting totally absorbed with that, we say, I'm doing all those things. Now, what can I do with my business? So let me give you an example of this. And Ashley, I'm sure won't mind me using her as an example. Ashley has been building her business that relates a lot to going out and working and doing training and development live with people. So in a workshop setting. So she could freeze at this point in time and she could say, boy, now my business is stuck. There's nothing I can do. Maybe the government will give me a handout. I'll just have to wait till the storm passes and then I can go back to giving workshops in person. But instead, she's innovating and saying, wait a minute, I can still do workshops. I can still bring people together in a group. I can do it virtually. Now I just need to learn a few things, pick up a piece of software, and boom, my business is still continuing on. So this idea of pivoting, of innovating, of being able to adjust and control the things that you can. So there we go. We've got a few. Accept the things we cannot change, have the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you so much. That was Jamie, I guess, that put that in there for us. So I want to give you something else to think about here before we kind of move on, is that this was something that somebody I picked up years ago. And again, I can't remember, or I'd attribute this to them. It might have been Bob Proctor. It was a long time ago when I jotted it down. But here's the premise of it, is the greatest risk you can ever take is relying on someone or something else for your security. And the greatest security you can ever have is when you choose to take the risk of relying on yourself. So we're going to transition now into this whole idea of, why did you go into business for yourself? You may have had an entrepreneurial seizure at some point in time and decided to go out on your own. Do you have experience and skill in owning and operating and starting and running a business? If you don't, these are skills that you can obtain. Maybe you had a job and then you launched out on your own. Maybe you came from a brick and mortar business that somebody else owned, or maybe you owned it and then now you went online. There are new skill sets that need to come into place, but realize that right now, the greatest security you have is by actually making that choice. You've made that choice. Now is a moment of truth, if you will. So it begins by saying, what do I really, really want from life? Because only then can you design a business that works. So coming back to that idea again, is that if what you want is guarantees, if you want no risk, if you want security and safety, and you want, to stay in that, environment, then maybe being in business is not for you. And I think this is kind of a tough love statement, but I think that those 80% that fail really need to get out of the business. So, you need to step up and realize that this is where you're at and that you've made this choice and embrace it and commit to it and move forward, or you need to let it go. And that's okay. I'm not judging that in any way. It's okay to go back and get a job, because this game of running a business is serious and it takes full commitment. So let's move forward into that in terms of this idea, because all of a sudden, if you stop and you look at it and say, okay, I've made the choice, I'm going to be in business for myself, I'm going to take control of that, then now we need to look at a business design that works. Okay? So if what you're doing right now is not working, there's a challenge. I'm going to come back to that insanity quote again. Your business is perfectly designed to achieve the results you're currently getting. So if you're not getting the results that you want, then I would suggest that you're operating from a level of insanity. If you're not getting what you want, stop pretending that things are going to change by continuing to do the same thing. Or worse, by looking for a magic bullet, a secret sauce, a secret solution, a magic lottery ticket that you're going to win that's somewhere out there, that if I just do that one course, if I just get this one thing, then all of a sudden I'm going to achieve success. That's not what it's about. The answer is really obvious. The answer is if your business isn't getting you what you want, then your design is off. So you just need to go back and start to tweak your design. And the important thing here too is not to throw everything out. And this is what a lot of people who are stimulated and driven by external stimulus do, is they'll start on a certain path with their business because they listen to some guru and they decided to use that guru's business design, but it's not working because it doesn't fit them. And then they decide, well, wait a minute, because that's not working, I'm going to throw that out and I'm going to adopt somebody else's business design. And then they go through this vicious cycle of DIY programs and basically, buying into the snake oil salesman and taking on that whole challenge of letting somebody else control what you're all about and what you want to do. So what we need to do is stop that insanity and start getting back to design. And it's okay that you don't know how to do this. You need to become a student of it. And which is another thing that Gerber talks about, is he talks about the idea that just because you know the technical work, so let's say that you are a fitness coach, you teach people, you want to instruct and teach people how to have a fit, trim, healthy body. Just because you know the technical side of that work doesn't mean you know anything about running a business that fulfills that work. So that's okay. Know the technical work. Now go to work on designing and figuring and learning out how to design a business that works, that's going to fulfill on that fitness objective that you've got. And I got to move fast here because I promised we would wrap up in half an hour. So here's the next step to that. This is not a business design that's going to work for anybody. So as long as your organizational chart looks like this, you're always going to be spinning your wheels. You're always going to be wondering why you're not achieving the level of success that you always wanted. Now think about this for a minute, because this is often the next step that most people take. I call it the DIY trap. They think that, well, a good business design is me doing everything, and therefore I'll plan it all out and map it all out. Well, guess what? If you're doing everything, who's going to do what you're supposed to be doing? Who's going to do what you do best? So think of your online business somehow that it's not different than a brick and mortar business. Somehow many people think that it is. If you were to open up, say, a hairdressing salon, you would need a storefront. You would need equipment. You would need hairdressers. You would need staff. You would need somebody making appointments. You would need advertising. You would need marketing. You would need all of these things. And yet, for some reason, when people go into business online, they seem to think all of that goes out the window. So this idea of DIY can really be your Achilles tendon. And it's a contradiction, really. So the challenge here comes from, I think it's rooted in this paralyzing mindset. And those of you who have followed us, Jamie and I, before have probably seen me do this. And this is the story that Earl Nightingale told about the idea of this person stuck out in an awful winter storm. And they're walking along with a pile of wood. And they come across a lovely wood stove. And they say, "I'm cold, give me some heat." And the wood stove says, "Sure, just give me some wood." And the person says, "No way, give me the heat first, and then I'll add the wood." Now, this is the next step of this challenge, is the DIY trap leaves us to this situation where basically, and again, Jamie and I come across this all the time, where people say, well, once I'm making some money, then I'll invest in myself. So can you see the contradiction in that? The contradiction is, I want everybody else to invest in me. I want people to hire me for my services, but I'm not willing to invest in myself. That's a huge contradiction. Now, I believe it's rooted in the earlier information that we talked about. It's rooted in the fact that we're stuck with this mindset that we're creating a job, and therefore we need guarantees. And therefore we need safety and we need security. And that one shift in your thinking, that one thing that we promised in the intro to this, one shift in your thinking to go away from that and say, wait a minute, that's not what this is all about. Now that I'm in business, I need to be thinking about investment, which will get me returns. We can call those results. We can call that ROI. And that shift in thinking is critical. You need to be wearing two hats. You need to be wearing your producer hat, for when you're fulfilling as a coach and consultant, and then you need to be wearing your business development hat. And that means you need to create a proper organizational structure with a team, with people that are going to help you and do the work to get the job done. So what I'm talking about here is thinking strategically. And the ultimate goal, I believe, that we all need to be focused on, this is certainly something that Jamie and I are constantly working on, and our goal in working with our clients on, is to get to that point where they're doing only what they do best. So what I want to do is encourage you to make a commitment to being 100% focused on doing only what you do best. That means you're outsourcing all the rest. So you're basically focusing on just that and figuring out how to get everything else done. Now, if you make a commitment to that, things will happen. I want to read one of my all-time favorite quotes here. This is from W.H. Murray, who was on the expedition to climb in the Himalayas. He was the first one, I think, to go up, or one of the first ones to go up Everest in 1951. So he said, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Can anybody identify with those feelings? Hesitancy, the chance to draw back, especially now, feeling ineffective. He goes on to say, concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, the providence moves too. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, rising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance, which no one could have dreamt would have come their way. I learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. By the way, if you want that quote, let me know. I'm happy to send that to you. Just drop your email in. It's something that really resonates with me that I often come back to. Let me just kind of wrap up here with a couple of thoughts, because we're on the 30-minute mark, and I did say I was going to condense this so we could carry on. So I want to encourage you to do a couple things here. One, get totally clear on exactly what you want from your business. So what does business success mean to you? And those of you who have worked with Jamie and I know that I talk about the outcome of the outcome. So success doesn't mean I want $1 million. What will that do for you? Go beyond the $1 million. What does success really mean to you? What is the outcome of any outcome that you decide upon? What is the absolute minimum necessary I need to achieve that? This is where business design comes in. So you need to create and design a business model that's perfectly designed to help you achieve that goal, what that goal is in terms of your business design. And this is where you're probably going to need some help, because nobody can fulfill that organizational chart. Nobody can know it all. And if you try and do it all yourself, you're likely, well, not likely, I guarantee you're going to end up frustrated, and you're going to have limited success, because nobody can be an expert in everything. And this is why we need to draw upon other people who do what they do best. Let me give you an example of this. This might resonate with some people, some it won't, some won't get this. But how many people love to do bookkeeping and do their taxes every year? Now, Anita might give me a 1 on that, because I think Anita is in this profession, but I'm not sure. So give me a 1. And give me a 2 if that's something where you go, no way, that's one of those tasks that I just hate. Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of 2s here. So does that mean that bookkeeping and doing taxes is something that just can't be done well? That nobody likes it? That people hate it? That it just is one of those things that needs to get done? No. My son is finishing up his CPA. He absolutely loves accounting. He loves doing the books. He loves numbers. He's just passionate about it. So for him, that's doing what he does best. He just loves it, and he's very, very good at it. So why on earth would you continue to do, excuse my expression, a half-assed job of things that you don't do well and that you don't really want to do, and think that that's somehow going to lead you to success? Commit to letting go of those things and focusing on what you do best, and providence will move for you. It definitely will. So get into understanding your business model and business design. And the last thing is figuring out what is the fastest and easiest path to get that done. So always, always, always looking at your plan and figuring out, how can I hack this? How can I make this simpler? How can I shortcut this whole process? So I want to ask you this final question and ask you to kind of step up and commit. Are you committed to building a business that works? Are you ready to implement a strategic, I would say, management and marketing program? Give me a 1 if that's something that you're ready to commit to. Fantastic. So are we getting some ones? I've only got 1. So does that mean that everybody else on the call has decided, no, I'm not, I'm going to go back and get a job? I hope I haven't turned you off that much. Although I hope if it is a reality check for you, then by all means do that. Realize that this is not easy. This is going to be some of the most difficult work. In fact, I would suggest it's the most difficult work that you've ever done. And that's why I would also suggest that drawing upon professionals, using a coach is critical to get you through this. Now, this sounds self-serving. I don't care if it sounds self-serving or not. But if you don't have somebody that can reveal your blind spots, that can help you through those rough spots, that can help you when you're at home feeling self-isolated and in that situation, which many of us are right now, then you're going to have a real tough time breaking through and getting what you really, really want out of life and out of your business. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. This is, again, I've kind of piecemealed things together here to try and make this brief. Those of you who aren't working with us, I want you to know that this is what we focus on, is helping people gain crystal clarity, helping them figure out what it is they're good at, what they want from their business, what they're uniquely designed to do, a strategy to achieve it, a massive action plan, which includes an offer, an audience, messaging, and implementation. And that's something that we do. We always limit our intake to 5 coaches and consultants. We just work with a small group of people at any time. So you're welcome to apply now, and we'll have a discussion as to whether we want to work together or not. And once we put all those pieces together, then the time is the next factor. Is a lot of people get into business and they go, hey, I started my online business. I invested $99 in this program. It's been 3 months. How come? Where's my $1 million paycheck? Well, I got to take you back to the brick and mortar business. Remember, creating a business is not easy, but the rewards are tremendous, and you need to be willing to commit to it and stay the course. So I'm going to leave it at that. And thank you for adjusting and hanging in there with me as I've adjusted the presentation here. Let me go now to change the windows. I want to put up, first of all, I want to talk about something else, which, let me just turn off the presentation here for a minute. There we go. Okay. So I want to talk about one other thing that we're doing during this health crisis, and that is we're doing a couple of things. One is we've opened up our toolbox for those people who are at home and have maybe some extra time and trying to figure out how to design their business. We have that available. You can reach it, and we'll give you a link to that. And the other thing I want to put up here, you'll see it in the chat, is what Jamie and I have done. Can you see that now? Jamie, does that show up?
No, you have to actually hit, if there's something you have to actually hit broadcast now. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Okay. So what Jamie and I have done is we have put together a comprehensive assessment. This is something that we do in the background. We do this as an audit for our clients. It's in-depth. We've put a lot of time into it. And essentially what you can do with that, and what we do with that, is kind of create a checklist of everything that needs to be done. And we also figure out those things that could be done and are optional and all of that. And what we're doing, again, is we're opening this up because we know that people are struggling and they're stuck, and maybe they're frozen right now, or they're feeling like fleeing. And we don't want you to be in that position. So what I want to encourage you to do is you click to get access now. It's totally free. There's no obligation. You're going to be able to go through that, and you're going to get a sense in what does, a really healthy marketing plan look like, step by step, check box by check box. And we're going to go through that with you too. We're actually going to go through it and give you some feedback on that. We're not charging anything for this. We want to put ourselves out there right now to really help everybody that we can. So we're going to give you that personal consult and that customized feedback on exactly what you need to do. And again, there's no charge for this. Normally we charge for an audit. We're not charging for this at all. So we want to encourage you to take advantage of that. And if you're feeling stuck and you're wondering, what do I even do? How do I take a first step out of my stuckness? This would be a great step for you. So it'll at least get your mind shifted and starting to think about things you can do in terms of your business design, in terms of your marketing design. So I'll leave it at that, Jamie, and then I want to transition.
When you click on Get Access Now, you'll see it's just a quick form. It's a fill-in, rename, email address, and all that, just that you're expressing interest. And then shortly after you submit that form, you'll get in your inbox, you'll get like a more detailed form that you'll fill out, send that to us, and then we'll contact you and we'll schedule a call and go through it. We'll go through a deep dive.
Right.
Your website, your LinkedIn profile, all of that. So
there's kind of 3 steps to the process then. The first is clicking on Get Access. You'll see, I got to fill out a little information here. That's so we can get in touch with you and get you the information back to you. The third is you'll do a questionnaire. You'll fill out all that information on the questionnaire. And then the third is we'll get together and we'll give you a deep dive analysis of that. We're going to spend an hour with you going and brainstorming and giving you as many ideas as we can to keep your business going, to, if it's stalled right now, to get it unstalled. If it's still moving, but it's not moving as quickly as you would like, we'll strategize how to get it moving, how to build momentum. We'll go through all of that with you. So with that, we're a little overdue, but we want to kind of transition now, as we promised last week, into the kind of the mastermind portion of this call, which is, how you doing? Where are you at? What are you stuck with? Ask any questions you want. Throw any ideas out there that are working for you right now. This is kind of the open mic session, even though we don't have a mic available to everyone, and we have to use the chat. But let us know what are your fears? Where are you stuck? If you are stuck. If you're not stuck and things are working for you, maybe share what is working for you, how you've pivoted, how you're adjusting and adapting to make things work.
And while you guys are typing, I'm going to put in here, and I'm hoping my spelling is going okay. I put in the link, I believe, that should take you to register for our weekly implementation calls. Again, totally free. That'll be where we have a Zoom meeting, and we can see you if you want to be on camera. We can talk, face to face, rather than, we had this webinar scheduled. So that's why we're in this mode right now. But Mark said we kind of abbreviated what we were planning to do as far as a lengthy webinar. Let's see, I just want to make sure that link goes where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, it's showing. I can.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, feel free to take this time. I mean, Mark's opening it up. If you want to share with us what you're dealing with in your business, even your life, how you're feeling, and in relation to your business, whatever. If you want to just ask us any questions, maybe you want to get to know us a little bit. You have some questions.
Yeah, or if you're in a particular industry or niche and you're concerned and you're thinking, how can I work with this? What can I do? Do you have any suggestions for next steps? I can share with you personally. I know, Jamie and I stay very connected. We both work with each other. We work with other people. We invest in our businesses and work with coaches and technical people that take on specific roles for us in terms of an objective that we want to achieve. So we do that, but we also are all, I know I'm feeling it. Every morning I have to kind of decide to get out of bed. Every morning I have to make a choice not to freeze. Every day I need to make a choice not to flee from my computer, but to get online and to start doing what I can do. And some of those steps that we've taken, some of those proactive steps, this is one example of that, is we've reached out, we've said, hey, let's get this out there so that we can gather together as a community. We did that with our implementation call last week. It went great. Now we're going to do it weekly instead of monthly during this time. And maybe we'll keep it going weekly after this. This could be a pivot, a change that sticks with us forever. Yeah. So we're getting some feedback here. This morning, after an informative dream, I realized I need a step-by-step plan for what to do to create my storefront. Okay, so again, what I would suggest you do is focus on and Sherry, we've talked about this before, is try not to think about things as a huge project. And try not to think of, oh, there's going to be 20 steps to this. Just focus on what's the first thing I need to do. What's the first step? And the other thing you want to do is make sure you're very clear on all those other things first, because before all of that, you need to decide what do I really want? What do I want out of my life? What do I want as a result of that? What is the business going to do for me? What's it going to deliver for me? And what's that mean to me? In other words, what's the outcome of the outcome? So whatever that is for you, decide those things first, then decide what the business is going to be moving forward. And what's the first step you can take in the storefront? Okay, what's the first step? Because sometimes, we can overanalyze and we can make things way too big. Yeah. Remember that organizational chart? We can make a huge organizational chart. We can build a Walmart when in fact, all we needed was a lemonade stand.
I was just going to say, to Jerry, I was going to say, when you're saying storefront, I'm thinking digital storefront, I'm thinking website. And I would suggest, as I think Mark is kind of going down that path, that you may not need a whole website. You may just need a landing page of some kind, just an informative, and an informative and what we call purpose built, where you're taking people to one next step with you.
Yes.
And it's not like a brochure where they're clicking through and going to all these places. A website may be too much of what you don't need. You might just need that, like, let's talk. Here's a link. Let's talk. And maybe then you need a scheduling link. Like that could be your next step,
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Yeah. So, and again, before the storefront, first of all, you need to be really committed to what you want. Then you need to figure out what is your value proposition? What are you offering the world? What do you have to offer? And we all have something unique to offer.
Yeah.
What am I offering the world? And then who's, very specifically now, who is going to be most receptive to that, what I have to offer? Who's going to see value in that? Okay, who's going to see value in that? So let's come back to the fitness trainer example, the person who gets people fit and healthy. Well, if I market to the whole world, what about those people that don't care? What about those people where that's not a high priority for them right now? I'm not going to have a lot of luck. So what I need to do is find out who are those people that are specifically interested in being fit and healthy, okay, and are interested in doing it now. This is a moment in their life that they're focusing on this objective. So we need to do some homework before we figure out the storefront, and then the storefront will feed into that. And that's how you do what Jamie just said, the KISS, because you'll realize I don't need to be in all places. I only need to be where the people who are interested in what I have to offer are hanging out. So we have another comment here. I am a stay-at-home mom of twin toddlers. Wow. I stopped working 3 years ago when they were born. I was getting ready to get started back up again soon, but with the way things are, I am not sure if I should change focus like I had planned from small business to leadership, or even get started at all. I'm not sure I can add the hardest thing in my life, as you said earlier in this moment in time. I'm really glad you shared that and you disclosed that. Thank you for doing that, because this is something that, we don't want to live in fantasy land. You've got your hands full right now, with toddlers at home. So I would suggest that you look at, okay, do I have time, any free time at all? And if I do, how can I design something that's going to fit into that? So this comes back to, what do I need? What do you need? So you don't need to be sleeping 3 hours a night because you've taken on too much of a business and you're also trying to take care of your family. So you need to figure out and design it the way you want it. So the first step would be, okay, here's what I want. What I want is this extra income, say, of this amount. And this is what I have to give, which is an extra 3 hours, in the evening when my kids are sleeping. And in order to maintain my health, that's all I can do. What kind of business? Now, what do I have as a skill set? What do I have as life experience? What is my life got in it? And it's there. There's a unique factor that you have to give to the world. How can I now design that into place? So let me again try and off the top of my head give you an example. Somebody might go, I went through a health scare. I was in a bad accident. Then I gained a ton of weight. Then I got another health scare because I had high blood pressure and I was close to being diabetic. And my doctor said I was obese. And because of that, that shocked me into life. I learned how to eat right. I learned how to exercise, and my whole life has changed. And now I want to open up a fitness center. I want to get a gym, and I'm going to teach people how to eat properly and everything. And then you come back and go, but I've only got 3 hours in the evening to give. So does that mean you have to give up on your dream? No, you just have to modify your dream a little bit. So now let's come back and say, well, what can I do? Well, maybe I could do an online, training program where people could watch, and I'll guide them through some fitness moves, and then I'll give them menus and everything. And then I could go, well, what's that going to look like? Oh, that probably is going to take a good 8 to 10 hours a day to run a business like that, fulfill on it. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe I need to do a little adjusting here. Maybe I could just get a handful of clients that I could do one-on-one coaching with, talk to them about the emotional part of food, the fears of exercise, and I could actually just figure this out and work with 3 clients. That's what I need to do this. I can meet with them in the evening because they're working too. And this could really work. Now, what does that look like? How could I design a business to make that work and to attract that kind of person? So, I mean, that's just off the top of my head, but that's how I think. And that's the idea of thinking strategically and kind of twinning it down. Up to you. Boy, that's a lot, to have 2 kids at home. And again, you might have other resources. Maybe your husband's at home too, or your partner, and maybe you can do some negotiation. And again, this comes back to designing it the way you want it. So maybe there's a little negotiation here saying, you know what, I do it all and I'm exhausted. I don't even have an extra minute to give. Could you take the kids for 2 hours so I can get a little rest, so then I can put in the 3 hours to my business? Again, this is the work. Okay, this is the work that it takes to design it the way you want it in order to create a successful business that works for you.
I will tell you, Yolanda, I started my business out of absolute necessity. I shared this in our call last week. I lost my job. My husband lost his job in the same week. This was when the economy crashed in 2008, 2009, actually. And I started my business, and my son was 4. So I know what it's like, and it was hard with just one, and he was 4, so I can't even imagine 2 or more. But really focus on what you love to do. I don't know if you have a business in mind, and maybe I missed that part, but, like I started out as a virtual assistant. That was my business, and I'm so far removed from that, although I still have that skill set, and my clients rely on me for that skill set. But I started to create. I recognized need, and I also recognized that my clients were needing something that I was learning on my own. And so I'm fortunate I was able to build a business out of something that I was really passionate about and I'm good at. And, so that pivot. So, figure out, like, if it's children that you're passionate about, your children, obviously you are, but if you are passionate about helping other people that have children, maybe you help them with starting a business too, or just kind of networking yourself into a business, like figuring out what that is. Anyway, my advice is just.
And the comment was whether to change focus from small business to leadership. So examine that, and again, do that for the right reasons. So what I would suggest is that a lot of people in business, again, it's the shiny object syndrome, or being externally motivated, as they say, well, where's the money? Who can I market to? Who is going to buy things or spend things? That's not the way to build a business. Right. Is because that's chasing a shiny object or trying to change the pot of gold or win the lottery. Instead, come back. If it's small business and leadership, come back to your own skill set and say, what is it about me? What am I offering that I've uniquely learned in my life and that I uniquely give to the world? That's got you embedded in it. And when I say unique, 2 people might offer exactly the same product or service. What makes it unique is them and their personal experience, their personal history. So that's the uniqueness. So start there. So if you're going to change from small business to leadership, ask yourself why. And what is it? Were you working with small business and you determine, you know what, I have a much greater skill set in the leadership category. And this is why. And this is the value proposition that I have. Then you maybe would make that pivot into leadership. But don't do it because it's a buzzword and because everybody is saying you should, go into this space, or it's what you're reading about. So I hope that helps.
Great.
And I want to just honor everybody here. There's 2 things. What type of business for the storefront. So this is where, just in terms of a frame of reference and languaging, what we often refer to is a digital storefront. So we think of, okay, if you compare, and you'll often hear me compare, brick and mortar businesses to digital businesses, and there's, the rules apply, business is business. We need to think about our digital storefront. So what does that look like? And how are people seeing us? So let me again tell a little story and give you an example of that. If we were to open up an ice cream shop, first of all, we decide, where was the location to do that. And one of the first things we would do would be to put a sign up, right up front. Hey, ice cream. And maybe we put hours on that and an open sign so that people knew that we were open. And then maybe we would put some signs up around town, that pointed in the direction of the ice cream shop so that people can find us. So we do the same thing online in terms of creating a digital storefront. Is what does our digital storefront look like? When people Google us, what do they see? Do they see our smiling face? Do they get a very clear, quick impression of who we are, who we serve, what our promise is, what our unique value proposition is, how they can get in touch with us? That's what we mean by storefront. So digital storefront, just like an external storefront, how can they find you? What's your address? Where are you? Are you showing up in all the right places to all the right people? Another comment here, which is a wonderful gift, I think, to share with people. I start my day, thank you, Anita, by connecting to my inner guidance via meditation. And then I make a list of what are 1 or 2 steps to move my business forward. I love this. This is, yay, Anita. Is first of all, that concept of slowing down, taking a breath, going inside is so important. Being internally driven instead of external. And it's so hard right now, I know. But this is now more than ever is the time that you need to meditate or pray or whatever you want to call it, is that time to take pause and go inside. And then I also love the fact that Anita said, take a list of 1 or 2 steps. Yes. So the biggest mistake people make is they make a list of 15 or 25 or 30 different things. And then what happens at the end of the day? They look at their list and they went, oh, I did 1 or 2 things. I'm a failure. I didn't accomplish it. Well, for Anita, she takes 1 or 2 steps. She can celebrate at the end of the day. Look at the accomplishments that I make. So really excellent point is focus on that 1 or 2 things that are going to move you forward. I love it. I have several tools I want to create, but sometimes don't feel inspired to create right now, especially when technology keeps messing up or news comes in, like my dad coughing. Stay focused with increased distractions. Great wisdom. Thank you, Anita, for sharing, which is so true. Is, you know what, you can take that list, those things you want to create, write those in your journal, make a list of your someday list, make a list of, when I get around to it, and stay focused and avoid those distractions, those shiny objects. Yeah. Yolanda says, thank you. So helpful. I think I know what I love to do. I have been scared of it because it isn't obviously practical. Honestly, not small business or leadership, but I'm realizing that I now just need to get creative with it. Yes, start with you. Start with your passion. Start with your uniqueness. Your life history. It's all there for you. Everybody has it. Everybody has a personal history that is so powerful that can change the world. And I don't care where you've come from or what you've done. We all have it. And you just need to get into it and find it. And that's where I would really encourage you to reach out, get some help with that. One of these days, we're going to do a webinar. I'm going to share the Johari window. And the Johari window is all about where we have to look at places that are hidden to us that maybe other people see and we don't. And then there's also things that other people don't see and we don't see. And that's the potential that exists. And there's no way you can do that in isolation. You just can't find those pieces in isolation. So I encourage you to reach out. Yolanda, we're here for you. And again, reach out, set up a call with Jamie or myself, and we're happy to go deep. Again, there's no obligation, no cost to that. We would love to talk with you and help you process through some of these and give you some ideas. And what I mean by that is drawing out the ideas that are within you, not putting them into your head. Okay, I feel like I just got called out in the very best way. Thank you. That's great. More info. Email hacked last week. Outlook 365 is missing emails. Click links that don't work due to slow internet or overwhelmed internet. Getting hacked is never fun. Someone made a post the other day, which I actually need to give them some feedback on because it came across as kind of really negative when I thought it could have been a really positive thing, which is now, but always, 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 we need to be aware of our vulnerabilities, because now's the time when we can be very vulnerable and we can open ourselves up to hacks, and we can open ourselves, and I mean personally, emotionally, as well as from a business standpoint. So just like we're vulnerable and we're washing our hands and we're distancing ourselves and we're staying isolated, in the same way, think of your business, not in a fearful way, but in a proactive way. Things that you need to be doing all the time anyways. Secure passwords, using a password manager like LastPass. Not a bad time to be changing up your passwords right now. Being aware of those phone calls that come in, or those emails, the phishing scams and things like that. Those are things we need to be aware of all the time. But right now, what I would suggest is, some people are saying, it's just people are going crazy and these things are coming out. Yeah, maybe there is an increase in them. But instead of looking at it that way, what I look at it is more from the perspective of, whoa, do a little check-in, make sure that you're protecting yourself and that you're not allowing your fear to make you vulnerable to things, people taking advantage of you. So I know that's kind of an interpretation of what you put there, but being hacked just brought that to mind.
And Anita, maybe take the time right now, without the technology, sit down with a pen and paper and write a blog post, or just, open up a Word document and stay off of the email for now, and just, write a blog post. Write about what you're experiencing right now. Be vulnerable, share yourself, share your message, and it will resonate with people. So.
And that's a fantastic idea, Jamie. I think this, now more than ever, is a time of self-disclosure, of letting people know where you're at. I think in many ways, we've been talking about this probably for over a year now, is this idea that everybody's kind of tired of the slick, it just comes across as fake and sleazy. We're all intelligent enough to see through it. So this isn't a time to be slick. It's never a time to be slick. Now more than ever is a time to, and that this is I think healthy vulnerability is self-disclosure, is letting people know what's going on, and making sure that you let people know where you're at and how you're feeling. I think that's really, really important right now. So great point, Jamie. So I think we're at the top of the hour, and
can we maybe, I think we got a couple minutes, and Sherry popped something in there, so I want to make sure we kind of.
Yeah, so I think it looks like Sherry and Ashley have kind of been having a back and forth here, so that's why I didn't read them, and they're in the chat so everybody can read it, but I'll kind of leave it because it's kind of a conversation going on. So I will let that be and let you two connect, search for each other on LinkedIn or however you want to connect, and if you want to carry on and continue the conversation. Again, thank you all for being here, and we appreciate you all. And now more than ever is a time, if you're thinking, oh, what have I got to give? Now you really have things to give. People need coaching right now. They need consultants right now. They need people to help them get unstuck more than ever. We all need each other. So let's continue to collaborate. We're going to meet again next week. The format's going to change back to our implementation call format. So that means it's going to be an open mic sort of thing where you can speak, and we can really, and it's great because then you're not just hearing from Jamie and I, we're all collectively contributing. And last week was amazing. There were some real gems that came out of last week's meeting. So please come, bring a friend. Yeah.
An opportunity to network as well and get to know other people, other entrepreneurs and other coaches, and just to dialogue. So yeah, if you need the link, let me know. We put it in the chat, but if you need, please do reach out. My website, I'll just give it to you real quick. It's upscaleyourbusiness.com, and you can reach me through that if you don't know how else to reach.
And one other quick note as we wrap up here, we're 1 minute past the hour, but I do want to wrap up with one more quick note. When I end the event, you're going to get a screen will pop up for a feedback, and we thrive on feedback. So would you please take just a moment to run through that quickly and give us your feedback and your ideas. We ask you a few questions about what we're doing, topics that were helpful to you. It's just invaluable to us. So please give us that feedback. We would love that. And we really are grateful for it. Thanks so much. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Okay. Bye now.
Bye.